A waitress watched a little girl collapse in her diner and dialed the only number in her phone. Papa, the voice that answered was cold, commanding, terrifying. What she didn't know, she just called the most feared mafia boss in city. And now his daughter won't let her go. The coffee pot slipped from Sophia's hand, shattering across the diner floor. Not because she was clumsy. Sophia Carter had worked at Mel's Diner for 6 years without breaking a single dish. Her hands were steady, even on her worst days. Even on days like today, the anniversary of the day she buried her daughter. No, the coffee pot fell because the little girl in booth 7 had just turned the color of ash and slumped forward into her tomato soup. Oh my God, Sophia's feet were moving before her brain caught up. She vaulted over the counter, her worn sneakers crunching through broken ceramic. Somebody call 911. The only other customers, an elderly couple sharing a slice of pie, froze with their forks in midair. The girl couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Dark hair, pale skin, dressed in a private school uniform that probably cost more than Sophia's monthly rent. She'd come in alone 20 minutes ago, which had struck Sophia as odd. Kids that young didn't usually wander around this part of Chicago by themselves, especially not at 9 o'clock on a rainy Tuesday night. Sophia had asked her if she was waiting for someone. The girl had just nodded and ordered soup in a voice barely above a whisper. Now that same girl was unconscious, her small body sliding sideways across the vinyl booth. Sophia caught her before she hit the floor. The girl's skin was clammy and cold. Too cold. Hey, sweetie, can you hear me? Sophia gently laid her down, checking for a pulse. It was there, weak and irregular, but there. The girl's breathing was shallow, her lips tinged with blue. Sophia's nursing training kicked in like muscle memory. She dropped out of nursing school 8 years ago when Emma got sick, but some things you never forget. She tilted the girl's head back, making sure her airway was clear. Checked her pupils, dilated and unfocused. This wasn't choking. This wasn't an allergic reaction. This was cardiac. Did anyone call 911? Sophia shouted. The old man by the window fumbled with his phone, his hands shaking. Sophia's mind raced. She needed information. Medical history. Emergency contacts. Anything. The girl's designer backpack sat in the booth. Sophia grabbed it, dumping the contents onto the table. Textbooks, colored pencils, a half-eaten granola bar, and a phone, sleek, black, expensive. The kind of phone Sophia would need to save up for 6 months to afford. She pressed the home button. No password. The screen lit up with a photo of the girl hugging a dark-haired man in sunglasses. Just one contact in the phone.
Papa.
Sophia's thumb hovered over the name. Everything in her screamed that this was a bad idea. This girl was clearly from money, serious money. The kind of family that had lawyers and asked questions and blamed people like Sophia when things went wrong. But the girl's pulse was getting weaker. Sophia pressed call. It rang once.
Twice.
Then a voice answered, low, controlled, with an edge sharp enough to cut glass.
Luna.
Where are you? Not hello, not who is this, just immediate, focused intensity. Sophia's throat went dry. This isn't Luna. I think Luna is your daughter? I'm calling because... Who is this? The voice dropped several degrees colder. Where is my daughter? My name is Sophia Carter. I'm a waitress at Mel's Diner on West Oakley, and your daughter, she just collapsed. She's breathing but barely, her pulse is weak, and I think it's her heart. Is she conscious? No. A pause. Sophia could hear muffled voices in the background, then the sound of a car door slamming. Did you call an ambulance? The man demanded. Someone's calling right now. Keep her airways clear. Don't move her unless you have to. I'm 10 minutes away. The line went dead. Sophia stared at the phone. Something about that voice made her stomach twist. It wasn't just authority. It was the kind of voice that expected to be obeyed without question. The kind that didn't ask twice. She pushed the thought away and knelt beside the girl again.
Luna.
At least now she had a name. Hang on, Luna, Sophia whispered, holding the small, cold hand. Your dad's coming. Just hang on. The girl's eyelids fluttered but didn't open. Sophia had seen this before. This exact thing. The pale skin, the labored breathing, the way the little chest rose and fell in uneven stutters. Emma had looked exactly like this the night she died. The memory hit Sophia like a freight train, her own daughter in a hospital bed, machines beeping, doctors saying words like cardiomyopathy and genetic condition, and if we'd caught it earlier, saying, "I'm sorry," over and over until the words lost all meaning. Sophia had been holding Emma's hand when her heart finally stopped. She'd been powerless then. She wasn't powerless now. "Come on, sweetie," Sophia murmured, monitoring Luna's pulse with 2 fingers on her wrist. "Stay with me. Just a few more minutes." In the distance, sirens began to wail. But before the ambulance could arrive, a different sound cut through the rain, the screech of tires on wet asphalt. Multiple vehicles. Sophia looked up through the diner's rain-streaked windows. 3 black SUVs had pulled up outside, blocking the entire street. Car doors opened in unison. Men in dark suits stepped out into the rain, and Sophia's blood ran cold when she saw what they were carrying. Guns. The elderly couple gasped and ducked under their table. The diner door burst open, and 4 men strode in. They moved like soldiers, their eyes scanning the room with predatory precision. One of them spoke into a radio. Location secured. Then he walked in. Sophia knew immediately this was Papa. He was tall, maybe mid-40s, with dark hair swept back and a face that could have been carved from marble. His suit probably cost more than her car. But it was his eyes that made Sophia's breath catch, dark, intense, and currently locked onto the little girl lying on the floor. In 3 strides, he was kneeling beside Luna, his hand on her face.
Luna, bambina.
"Can you hear me?" His voice, so cold on the phone, now cracked with something raw and desperate. One of his men moved toward Sophia. "Step back, ma'am." But Sophia didn't move. She kept her fingers on Luna's pulse, her other hand holding the girl's. "Her heart rate is dropping. The ambulance is almost here, but we need to." I said step back. The man reached for her arm. "Touch her, and you'll regret it, Marco." The voice was quiet, but it froze everyone in place. Papa hadn't looked up from his daughter, but his words carried absolute authority. The man named Marco stepped back immediately. Sophia met Papa's eyes, and for a moment, she forgot to breathe. This close, she could see the fear beneath the control. The same fear she'd felt the night Emma collapsed. "You're the one who called," he said. "Not a question." "Yes. You know CPR?" "I have nursing training." He gave a short nod. "Then don't leave her side." Red and blue lights flashed outside as the ambulance finally arrived. But Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that calling this man, whoever he was, might have been the biggest mistake of her life. Or maybe, something whispered in the back of her mind, it was the beginning of something neither of them could have seen coming. The paramedics pushed through the door with a stretcher and equipment boxes. A young woman with her hair in a tight bun immediately dropped to her knees beside Luna. "What happened?" she asked, snapping on latex gloves. "Cardiac episode," Sophia said quickly. "Weak, irregular pulse. Shallow breathing. Lips cyanotic. She's been unconscious for about 8 minutes." The paramedic's eyebrows rose slightly. Civilians didn't usually use words like cyanotic, but she didn't waste time asking questions. Her partner, a stocky man with a graying beard, was already setting up an oxygen mask. Papa, Sophia still didn't know his real name, moved back exactly 1 inch to give them room, but his hand never left Luna's shoulder. His jaw was clenched so tight Sophia could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. "We need to transport immediately," the female paramedic said, checking Luna's vitals. "Sir, are you the father?" "Yes." "Does she have any medical conditions we should know about?" He hesitated for a fraction of a second.
No.
"Nothing diagnosed." Sophia's head snapped toward him. That hesitation, she'd heard it before. From parents who suspected something was wrong but hadn't wanted to face it. From parents who'd been ignoring symptoms because acknowledging them made it real. The paramedics lifted Luna onto the stretcher with practiced efficiency. The oxygen mask covered half her small face. "We're taking her to Chicago Memorial," the bearded paramedic announced. "You can follow in your vehicle." "I'm riding with her." Papa's tone made it clear this wasn't up for discussion. "Sir, there's limited space."
I'm
"Riding with her." The two paramedics exchanged glances. The female one nodded.
fine.
"But only you." Sophia grabbed her coat from behind the counter. "I'm coming too." Marco, the suited guard, stepped into her path. "Ma'am, that's not necessary. We can handle." "She knows me." Sophia didn't raise her voice, but something in her tone made Marco pause. "When she wakes up in that ambulance, scared and confused, she's going to see strangers and guns and her father, who looks like he's about to break something. She needs someone calm. Someone who isn't falling apart." She had meant it as an insult, but Papa's eyes flashed dangerously. "You think I can't? I think you're terrified." Sophia cut him off, meeting his stare without blinking. "I think you love that little girl more than anything in this world, and I think that's exactly why you're the last person who should be trying to keep her calm right now." The diner went absolutely silent. Marco's hand moved toward his jacket. Another guard muttered something in Italian that sounded like a curse. The elderly couple under the table held their breath. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs, but she didn't look away from Papa's face. She'd already lost everything that mattered 8 years ago. What could this man possibly do to her that would be worse than that? Papa stared at her for a long moment. Then, impossibly, the corner of his mouth twitched. "You have a smart mouth," he said quietly. "I have an honest mouth. There's a difference." Another beat of silence. Then Papa turned to his men. "She rides with us." Marco looked like he'd been slapped. "Boss, we don't know anything about her." "She could be. She saved my daughter's life." Papa's voice dropped to a lethal softness. "Question my judgment again, Marco, and we'll have a different conversation." Marco's face went pale. "Yes, sir." The female paramedic raised her hands. "Look, I don't care who's coming, but we need to move now. The girl's heart rate is dropping." Everything happened fast after that. Sophia found herself squeezed into the back of the ambulance between medical equipment and Papa's broad-shouldered frame. The door slammed shut, and the siren wailed to life. Luna looked impossibly small on the stretcher, her dark hair spread across the white pillow. The paramedic, her name tag read J. Richardson, worked quickly, inserting in 4-line and attaching monitor leads to Luna's chest. Papa watched every movement with laser focus, his hands clenched into fists. Sophia gently placed her hand over Luna's small fingers. "Hey, sweetie," she murmured, even though the girl couldn't hear her. "You're okay. We're getting you help." The monitor beeped erratically. Richardson frowned at the screen. "Her rhythms all over the place." "What does that mean?" Papa demanded. "It means we need to get her to a cardiologist fast." Sophia's stomach dropped. She'd heard those exact words before in another ambulance, another lifetime ago. The ambulance hit a pothole, and everyone lurched. Papa's hand shot out to steady the stretcher, his other arm automatically bracing Sophia against the wall. For a split second, she was pressed against him, could feel the tension radiating through his entire body. "Sorry," she muttered, pulling back. He didn't respond. His eyes were locked on Luna's face, and Sophia saw something in his expression that made her chest ache. It was the look of a man watching his entire world slip away, powerless to stop it. She knew that look. She'd worn it herself. "She's strong," Sophia said quietly. "Stronger than she looks." Papa's jaw worked. "How would you know?" "Because we kids don't walk into strange diners alone at night and order soup like they own the place. She's a fighter." He glanced at her sharply, something unreadable flickering across his face. Then he looked back at Luna, and Sophia could have sworn she saw his hand trembling. The ambulance screeched to a halt at the emergency entrance of Chicago Memorial. The doors flew open, and a team of doctors and nurses swarmed the stretcher. Sophia jumped out, but immediately found herself blocked by two of Papa's guards who'd followed in the SUVs. "Ma'am, you should go home now," one of them said. Not unkindly, but firmly. Sophia looked past them to where they were wheeling Luna through the automatic doors, Papa striding alongside the gurney, like a dark shadow. Every logical bone in her body told her to walk away. Go back to her tiny apartment. Forget this night ever happened. Stay in her own lane. But then she remembered Luna's hand in hers. The way the little girl had gripped her fingers. And she remembered Emma and the promise she'd made at her daughter's grave, that if she ever had the chance to save another child, she wouldn't fail. "No," Sophia said simply, and walked past the guards before they could stop her. Behind her, she heard one of them mutter into his radio, "Boss, the waitress is following you in." She didn't hear the response. But no one tried to stop her. The emergency room was controlled chaos. Sophia stood pressed against the wall as doctors and nurses swarmed around Luna's bed. Machines beeped and hummed. Someone called out blood pressure numbers. A tall doctor with silver hair barked orders about EKG readings and cardiac enzymes. Papa stood at the foot of the bed, motionless as a statue. His men had formed a perimeter around the room, which the hospital staff pretended not to notice. Sophia suspected people didn't argue with men carrying guns, even in a hospital. "We need family medical history," the silver-haired doctor said, not looking up from his tablet. "Any history of heart disease? Arrhythmia? Sudden cardiac events?" Papa's silence stretched too long. The doctor finally looked up, impatient. "Sir, I need answers if you want me to help your daughter." "Her mother died of a heart condition." The words came out flat, emotionless. 6 years ago. The doctor's expression shifted. "What kind of condition?" "I don't know the name." She collapsed. They said her heart just stopped working properly. Sophia's breath caught. She stepped forward before she could stop herself. "Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy?" Every head in the room turned toward her. The silver-haired doctor frowned. "Who are you?" "The woman who found her," Papa said quietly. "She has medical training." "Had," Sophia corrected. "I dropped out of nursing school. But my daughter died of HCM when she was 7. The symptoms," she gestured toward Luna. The sudden collapse, the irregular heartbeat, the way she turned pale. "It's exactly the same." The doctor studied her for a moment, then nodded to a nurse. "Run a full cardiac panel. I want an echocardiogram and genetic markers for HCM. Move her to imaging." As they wheeled Luna toward the door, a nurse touched Sophia's arm. "Ma'am, you'll need to wait outside." "No," Sophia didn't move. "Hospital policy. She stays." Papa's voice cut through the room like a blade. The nurse looked at the doctor. The doctor looked at Papa and his armed entourage.
He sighed. "Fine."
"But stand in the corner and don't touch anything." Sophia followed them down the hallway to the imaging room. She watched through the glass as they positioned Luna's small body under the echo machine, the wand moving across her chest, capturing images of her heart in real time. Papa stood beside her, so close she could hear his breathing. Carefully controlled, but too fast. "What's your name?" Sophia asked quietly. He didn't take his eyes off his daughter. "Why?" "Because I can't keep calling you Papa in my head." A pause. "Lorenzo. Lorenzo Vitali." The name hit Sophia like ice water. Even she, who didn't follow the news, who worked double shifts and went straight home, had heard that name. Lorenzo Vitali. The man the newspapers called the Wolf of Chicago, the one the mayor publicly condemned while privately, rumors said, paying protection money. She'd called a crime boss. She'd yelled at a crime boss. She'd told a crime boss he was falling apart. Her hands started to shake. "You're scared now," Lorenzo observed. Not mocking, just stating fact. "Wouldn't you be?" "Most people are smart enough to be scared from the beginning." He finally looked at her. "You told Marco he'd regret touching you." You told me I was falling apart. Either you're very brave or very stupid. I was focused on saving your daughter. I didn't have time to be afraid. And now, Sophia met his eyes. Now I'm still more worried about Luna than about you. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or respect. Before he could respond, the doctor emerged from the imaging room. Mr. Vitali, we need to talk. They moved to a small consultation room. Lorenzo sat down heavily. Sophia started to leave, but he gestured for her to stay. The doctor pulled up images on his computer. Your daughter has hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The walls of her left ventricle are significantly thickened, which... I know what it is, Lorenzo said quietly. My wife had it. They said it was genetic. It is. There's a 50% chance it passes from parent to child, the doctor's voice softened. I'm sorry. If it's caught early, we can manage it with medication and lifestyle changes. But Luna's case is already advanced. She'll need a beta blocker, possibly an ICD, an implantable cardiovertifibrillator, to regulate her heart rhythm. Lorenzo's hands gripped the armrests, so hard his knuckles went white. Will she live? With proper treatment and monitoring, yes. But Mr. Vitali, the doctor hesitated. Has Luna been experiencing symptoms? Fatigue, dizziness, chest pain? She never said anything. Kids often don't. They think feeling tired is normal. But we need to know, has her behavior changed recently? Has she been withdrawn or... She stopped talking. The words came out barely above a whisper. 3 months ago. She just
Stopped.
a few words here and there, but mostly nothing. The doctor nodded grimly. That's not uncommon with chronic illness in children. Depression, anxiety, they often manifest as selective mutism. Sophia's heart clenched. This little girl had been suffering in silence, her heart literally failing, and no one had known. Can I see her? Lorenzo asked. She's being moved to a room now. We'll keep her for observation, start her on medication. Lorenzo was already moving toward the door. Luna's new room was private, quiet. She looked impossibly fragile against the white sheets, wires and tubes running from her small body to various machines. Sophia hung back, but Lorenzo turned.
Come.
They approached the bed together. Lorenzo sat in the chair closest to Luna, reaching for her hand. Sophia stood at the foot of the bed, giving them space. Luna's eyelids fluttered, opened. Her dark eyes were unfocused at first, confused. Then they landed on her father's face. Sophia watched the little girl's expression carefully, waiting for relief, for joy. Instead, Luna's eyes widened with something that looked almost like fear. She pulled her hand away from Lorenzo's. Then her gaze found Sophia. And everything changed. Luna's face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks. Her hand reached out, not to her father, but across the bed, grasping desperately towards Sophia. Sophia moved without thinking, taking the small hand in hers. Luna's lips moved. A whisper so quiet Sophia almost missed it. Don't go. The first words the doctor had said in months. Sophia looked at Lorenzo and saw something break behind his eyes. He stood abruptly, turning away, his shoulders rigid. Mr. Vitali. I'll be outside, his voice was rough. He walked out of the room without looking back. Luna's grip on Sophia's hand tightened. And Sophia understood, with terrible clarity, that she'd just become tangled in something far more complicated than a medical emergency. She'd stepped into the broken pieces of a family she didn't understand, and a little girl who'd just chosen a stranger over her own father. Sophia stayed with Luna for 2 hours, holding her hand while the little girl drifted in and out of sleep. Every time Luna's eyes opened, they sought Sophia first, checking to make sure she was still there. A nurse came in to check vitals and adjust medication. She smiled warmly at Sophia. You're a good mother. I'm not her mother, Sophia said quietly. The nurse's smile faltered.
Oh.
I just assumed. Her father's outside. The nurse glanced toward the door, where one of Lorenzo's guards stood like a statue. Her smile disappeared entirely.
Right.
Well, the girl seems calm with you here. That's what matters. After the nurse left, Sophia gently extracted her hand from Luna's grip. The little girl was sleeping soundly now, her breathing steady, color returning to her cheeks. The monitors showed a regular rhythm. The medication was working. Sophia needed coffee. And a bathroom. And maybe to call her boss at the diner to explain why she'd disappeared in the middle of her shift. She slipped out of the room. Lorenzo was in the waiting area, sitting alone despite the 3 guards positioned around the room's perimeter. He wasn't on his phone or reading magazines. Just staring at nothing, his hands clasped between his knees. He looked up when Sophia approached. "She's sleeping," Sophia said. "The nurse said her vitals are stable." Lorenzo nodded, but didn't speak. An awkward silence stretched between them. Sophia shifted her weight. "I should probably head home. My shift at the diner." Sit, it wasn't quite in order, but close. Sophia hesitated, then lowered herself into the chair beside him. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his face, the shadow of stubble on his jaw. He looked older than he had a few hours ago. "She hasn't spoken to me in 3 months," Lorenzo said quietly. "Not more than a few words. I thought she was angry with me." I thought he stopped, jaw clenching. "I didn't know she was dying." "She's not dying," Sophia said firmly. "She has a condition. It's manageable. My wife managed it too. Until she didn't." Sophia didn't have an answer for that. Lorenzo reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. He set it on the small table between them. "For what you did tonight." Sophia stared at the envelope. Even without opening it, she could tell it was stuffed with cash. A lot of cash. "I don't want your money, Mr. Vitale. It's not about want. You saved my daughter. That deserves compensation." "I didn't save her for money." "Then why did you save her?" He turned to look at her directly. "You don't know her. You don't know me. You could have just called 911 and walked away." Sophia met his gaze. "Because she's a little girl and she needed help. That's reason enough." Lorenzo studied her face like he was trying to solve a complicated puzzle. Then he pushed the envelope closer to her. "Take it anyway. Consider it a thank you."
Sophia pushed it back.
"You don't fix people with cash, Mr. Vitale. Your daughter doesn't need your money. She needs you to figure out why she's so scared of you that she won't even talk to you." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. One of the guards, a younger man with sharp features, took a step forward. "Hey, you can't talk to him like..." Lorenzo held up one hand. The guard froze mid-sentence. "Everyone out," Lorenzo said quietly.
"Now."
His men exchanged glances. Marco opened his mouth to protest. "Out." They filed out of the waiting room, though Sophia could see them taking positions just outside the door. Probably still listening. Lorenzo leaned back in his chair, and for the first time that night, Sophia saw something that might have been amusement in his eyes. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met," he said, "or you have a death wish." "I'm a waitress from the South Side who buried her only child 8 years ago," Sophia said. "What exactly do you think you can threaten me with that's worse than what I've already lived through?" The amusement vanished from his face. "Your daughter. The one with HCM.
Emma."
She was 7-inch. Sophia's voice stayed steady even as her chest tightened. "We couldn't afford the treatment. The surgeries. By the time we got her into a program for low-income families, it was too late." Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment. "I'm sorry. Are you?" "Because I look at Luna, and I see my daughter. I see a little girl who has a father with enough money to save her life 1,000 times over, and she still ended up in my diner alone, eating soup, having a cardiac episode because nobody noticed she was sick." Sophia stood, her hands shaking with anger she didn't know she'd been holding. "So no, Mr. Vitale, I don't want your money. I don't want your gratitude. I want you to do better by that little girl before you lose her the way I lost mine." She turned to leave. "Sophia." She stopped but didn't turn around. "Why did you come to the hospital?" Lorenzo asked. "You made the call. You did your part. You could have stayed at the diner." Sophia looked back at him over her shoulder. Because she held my hand. And because I made a promise to my daughter that if I ever had a chance to save another child, I wouldn't walk away. She left before he could respond. Outside in the hallway, she nearly collided with Marco, who was leaning against the wall with another guard, a muscular man with a scar across his eyebrow.
That was stupid, Marco said.
Not threatening. Almost concerned. Nobody talks to the Don like that. Maybe someone should, Sophia muttered, heading toward the elevator. She heard Marco's voice behind her, quieter now, speaking to the scarred guard. She's dangerous, Nico.
How?
She's a waitress. Because she makes him soft. You saw how he looked at her. How he listened to her, a pause. She's a liability. The elevator dinged open. Sophia stepped inside, her heart pounding. As the doors closed, she caught one last glimpse of the waiting room. Lorenzo was still sitting in the same position, staring at the envelope on the table. He hadn't moved to pick it up. Sophia leaned against the elevator wall, suddenly exhausted. What was she doing? She'd just lectured a Mafia boss about parenting. She'd rejected his money. She'd made enemies of his guards. The smart thing would be to go home, never look back, and pray Lorenzo Vitali forgot she existed. But Luna's whispered words echoed in her mind. Don't go. And Sophia knew, with sinking certainty, that she wasn't done with this family yet. Whether that would save her or destroy her remained to be seen. Sophia's apartment was dark when she finally got home at 3 in the morning. She didn't bother turning on the lights. Just dropped her keys on the counter and collapsed onto her second-hand couch. Every muscle ached. Her uniform smelled like coffee and fierce sweat. Her hands were still shaking. She should sleep. She had to open the diner in 5 hours. Instead, she found herself walking to the small bookshelf in the corner of her living room. Her fingers found the frame immediately, even in the darkness. She'd touched it so many times over the years that she knew exactly where it was. Sophia carried it to the window, where streetlight filtered through the blinds. Emma smiled up at her from the photograph. 7 years old, missing her 2 front teeth, wearing her favorite purple dress. They'd taken this picture at Navy Pier, one of the good days, before the hospital stays became constant, before the word terminal entered their vocabulary. I met a little girl tonight, Sophia whispered to the photo. She has your condition. Your smile. Your dark hair. Her voice cracked. She's so scared, Em. And her father, he has all the money in the world to save her, but he doesn't know how to reach her. The photo didn't answer. It never did. Sophia set it back on the shelf and moved to her tiny kitchen. She made tea she didn't drink and stared at the wall until the sun started to rise. At some point, she made a decision. She called the diner at 6:30. Her boss, Mel, answered on the 3rd ring. Sophia? Jesus. Where did you disappear till last night? Old man Henderson said there was an ambulance and guys with guns. I know.
I'm sorry.
A customer's daughter collapsed. I had to make sure she was okay. Is she? Sophia closed her eyes. She will be. Mel, I need a favor. I need the next 2 weeks off. Silence. Then, 2 weeks? Sophia, you've never taken more than 2 days off in 6 years. I know. I'm sorry. But this little girl, she needs help, and I'm the only one she'll talk to. Another long pause. You gonna tell me what's really going on? Probably better if I don't.
Mel shined. Fine.
2 weeks. But you better come back, Carter. You're the only one who knows how to work the ancient coffee machine. Thank you. Sophia hung up and stared at her phone. Then, before she could second-guess herself, she pulled up the contact information from the hospital discharge papers they'd given her the night before. She texted the number listed as Patient Emergency Contact, Father. This is Sophia Carter. I'd like to volunteer to help with Luna's care at the hospital. I have nursing experience, and she seems comfortable with me. Let me know if this is acceptable. She hit send before her common sense could stop her. The reply came 30 seconds later.
Why?
Sophia typed, because she needs someone who understands what she's going through. And because I need to know I didn't walk away. 3 minutes passed. Then. Chicago Memorial, room 347. Be there at 9 a.m. Lorenzo was standing outside Luna's room when Sophia arrived, talking in low tones with a man in an expensive suit. Not security this time. A lawyer, maybe, or a business associate. They both fell silent when they saw her. We'll finish this later, Lorenzo said to the man, who nodded and left without a word. Lorenzo studied Sophia. She changed into jeans and a clean sweater, pulled her dark hair back in a ponytail. Without her diner uniform, she looked younger. And tired. You didn't have to come, Lorenzo said. Yes, I did. My men can hire proper nurses. Professionals with current credentials. Your men can hire 100 nurses and Luna still won't talk to them. Sophia met his gaze. She talked to me. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. 2 words. Which is 2 more than she's said to anyone else in months. He couldn't argue with that. There are rules, Lorenzo said finally. You don't ask questions about my work. You don't talk to reporters. You don't repeat anything you see or hear. I'm here for Luna, not for you. I know something shifted in his expression. That's why I'm saying yes. He opened the door to Luna's room. The little girl was awake, picking at her breakfast tray without enthusiasm. Her eyes lit up when she saw Sophia, actually lit up, in a way they hadn't when Lorenzo entered the room. Hey, sweetie, Sophia said softly, approaching the bed. Remember me? Luna nodded. Then, in a whisper so quiet Sophia almost missed it. You stayed. Sophia's throat tightened. I said I would, didn't I? For the first time, Luna smiled. Just a small curve of her lips, but it transformed her entire face. And Sophia's heart shattered. It was Emma's smile. The same shy, tentative expression Emma used to make when Sophia brought her favorite books to the hospital. The same hope mixed with fear that maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. Sophia had to look away for a moment, blinking hard. When she looked back, Luna was watching her with those 2 wise eyes. My daughter had a smile like yours, Sophia said quietly. Her name was Emma. Where is she? Luna's voice was barely audible. She's in heaven now. But you know what? Every time you smile, it's like getting to see her again. Luna processed this. Then she held out her hand. Sophia took it, settling into the chair beside the bed. Behind them, she heard Lorenzo move quietly to the window, giving them space but not leaving. The doctor says you'll need to take medicine every day, Sophia said gently. And we'll need to be careful about your heart. But you're going to be okay, Luna. I promise. Luna squeezed her hand. Don't go, she whispered again. I'm not going anywhere. Over the next few hours, Sophia fell into a rhythm she remembered from nursing school. She helped Luna eat, explained what each machine did in simple terms, distracted her during medication time with stories about the diner's quirky customers. Luna didn't say much, but she listened to every word. And slowly, gradually, she started to relax. At one point, Luna's eyes drifted to where Lorenzo stood by the window, still and silent. That's your papa, Sophia said gently. He's been very worried about you. Luna's expression shuddered immediately. She looked away. Sophia caught Lorenzo's eye. The pain in his face was unmistakable. For the first time in his life, Lorenzo Vitali had everything he needed to save someone he loved: money, power, resources. And none of it mattered. Because what Luna needed wasn't something he could buy or intimidate into existence. She needed something he'd forgotten how to give. Sophia saw it clearly now. This wasn't just about a sick child and a scared father. This was about a man who'd built walls so high to protect his daughter that he'd accidentally locked himself out. And somehow, Sophia had been handed the key. 5 days passed. Sophia arrived at the hospital every morning at 8 and stayed until Luna fell asleep each night. She read to her from books Lorenzo's men brought, fairy tales mostly, though Sophia suspected they'd raided a bookstore and just grabbed everything in the children's section. She helped Luna with the breathing exercises the physical therapist recommended. She learned that Luna loved strawberries but hated grapes, that she was afraid of thunder, and that she could draw surprisingly well for an 8-year-old. The drawing started on day 3. A nurse had brought crayons and paper to keep Luna occupied. At first, the little girl just made abstract swirls of color. Then she started drawing people. Sophia watched over Luna's shoulder as the picture took shape. A small figure in a hospital bed, a woman with dark hair holding her hand, and a tall man standing far away near the window. Luna drew the tall man in all black, like a shadow. "That's beautiful," Sophia said softly. "Is that your papa?" Luna nodded without looking up. "Why is he so far away in the picture?" Luna's crayon paused. Then she drew a thick black line between the man and the bed. A wall. Sophia's chest tightened. She glanced at Lorenzo, who sat in his usual spot by the window, pretending to read something on his phone. But his jaw was clenched, and she knew he'd seen the drawing. The next day, Luna drew another picture. This time, all 3 of them were together. No wall. No distance. Just a woman and a man on either side of a little girl, all holding hands. Luna colored the woman's hair dark brown. The man's suit was still black. But this time, she drew a tiny smile on his face. She never showed the picture to Lorenzo, just folded it carefully and tucked it under her pillow. On day 6, everything changed. Luna had been doing well, talking more, though still mostly to Sophia. She'd said good morning to one of the nurses and had even laughed at a joke from Dr. Richardson. Lorenzo had been encouraged. Sophia could see it in the way he sat a little closer to the bed, how he tried to engage Luna in conversation. "The doctor says you might be able to come home soon," Lorenzo said that afternoon, his tone lighter than usual. "Your room is ready. I had them paint it. What color do you want?" Luna stared at her coloring book, not answering. "Luna," Lorenzo's voice sharpened. Just slightly, just the edge of impatience bleeding through. "I asked you a question." The little girl flinched. It was subtle, just a slight hunch of her shoulders, a quick intake of breath. But Sophia saw it, and from the way Lorenzo went rigid, he saw it too. Luna's hand trembled as she gripped her crayon tighter. "Purple," she whispered, not looking at him. "I want purple." "Good," Lorenzo's voice was carefully controlled now. "Purple it is." But the damage was done. Luna had pulled into herself again, the small bit of openness from the past few days evaporating like morning mist. Lorenzo stood abruptly. "I need to make a call." He left the room, and Sophia could hear him in the hallway, speaking in rapid Italian. The words were harsh, angry, but not directed at Luna. At himself, maybe, or at the situation. Sophia waited until Luna seemed calmer, then followed Lorenzo into the hall. He was leaning against the wall, one hand pressed against his forehead. His guard stood at a respectful distance. "Mr. Vitali." He looked up, and Sophia saw exhaustion carved deep into his features. "She's afraid of me," he said flatly. "My own daughter is afraid of me." "She's not afraid of you," Sophia said carefully. "She's afraid of your tone."
Your
intensity. It's the same thing." "No, it's not." Sophia moved closer, lowering her voice. "You talk to her the way you probably talk to your men. Like you're giving orders. Like you expect immediate obedience. I'm her father. She should." "She's 8 years old," and her heart almost stopped. Sophia cut him off. "She doesn't need a boss right now, Mr. Vitali. She needs a dad." Lorenzo stared at her. Something flickered behind his eyes. Anger, maybe, or pain. "You think I don't know that? I think you've spent so long being the man everyone fears that you've forgotten how to be the man your daughter needs." The words hung in the air between them. One of the guards, Marco, shifted uncomfortably. "Boss, you don't have to listen to." "Shut up, Marco." Lorenzo didn't take his eyes off Sophia. His voice was quiet, dangerous. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't I?" Sophia stepped closer, meeting his gaze. "I've watched you for 6 days. You sit in that room like you're attending a business meeting. You check your phone every 10 minutes. You give her choices like they're negotiations. But you never just sit with her. You never ask her how she feels. You never tell her you're scared too. I can't show weakness. She's not your enemy. Sophia's voice rose, and she forced herself to take a breath. She's a little girl who almost died, who's terrified of dying like her mother did, and she needs to know that her father is human, that he's scared, that he loves her more than whatever empire you've built. Lorenzo's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, Sophia thought she'd gone too far. The look in his eyes was the same one she'd seen that first night, cold, lethal, the look of a man who'd done terrible things and would do them again. Then his shoulders sagged, and the facade cracked. I don't know how, he said quietly. The admission seemed to cost him everything. I don't know how to be what she needs. Everything I touch, I destroy. Everyone I love, he stopped, his voice breaking. My wife died because I was too late getting her to the hospital. Too busy with a meeting. Too focused on protecting territory to notice she was getting worse. And now Luna. Luna is alive, Sophia said firmly. And she's going to stay alive. But not because you have money or power. Because you're going to learn to be her father instead of her protector. They're the same thing. No, Sophia shook her head. Protection is about control. Being a father is about connection. And right now, you're so busy trying to control everything that you can't connect with anyone. Lorenzo looked at her for a long moment. Then, so quietly she almost missed it. Teach me. Sophia blinked. What? You know how to reach her. I don't, he met her eyes, and for the first time, she saw no walls, no defenses. Just a desperate father. Teach me how to talk to my daughter. Before Sophia could answer, a small voice came from the doorway. Papa. They both turned. Luna stood there in her hospital gown, bare feet on the cold floor, holding the folded drawing in her small hand. Luna, you shouldn't be out of bed, Lorenzo started. But Luna walked past him and handed the drawing to Sophia. Can you give this to him? She whispered. I'm scared to. Sophia unfolded the paper, looking at the picture of the three of them together, holding hands. She looked at Lorenzo, saw him staring at the drawing with an expression she couldn't quite read. Then Sophia did something that surprised them both. She took Luna's hand and placed it in Lorenzo's. Tell him yourself, sweetie, Sophia said gently. He's not as scary as you think. Luna's hand felt impossibly small in Lorenzo's palm. He stared down at it, his daughter's fingers so fragile against his callous skin. The drawing trembled in his other hand. Luna, he said, and his voice cracked on her name. She looked up at him with those dark eyes, so much like her mother's. Waiting. Hoping. Terrified. Sophia stepped back, giving them space but not leaving the hallway. This picture, Lorenzo managed. Is this what you want? For us to be? Together, Luna whispered. Like before Mama died. Something broke in Lorenzo's chest. He knelt down, bringing himself to Luna's eye level. Up close, he could see how much weight she'd lost, how the hospital gown hung off her small frame. How had he not noticed? I'm sorry, he said. The words felt foreign in his mouth. Lorenzo Vitali didn't apologize. Not to rivals, not to associates, not to anyone. But this was his daughter. I'm sorry I didn't see you were sick. I'm sorry I scared you. I'm sorry I don't know how to. Luna threw her arms around his neck. Lorenzo froze, stunned. Then, carefully, like he was holding something made of glass, he wrapped his arms around her and held on. She was crying.
So was he.
Sophia turned away, giving them privacy, her own eyes burning with tears. For 3 minutes, father and daughter held each other in that hospital hallway while guards pretended not to notice and nurses walked quietly around them. When they finally pulled apart, Luna touched her father's face with one small hand. You're not scary, Papa. You're just loud. Lorenzo huffed out something between a laugh and a sob. I'll try to be quieter. Okay. He stood, scooping Luna into his arms like She weighed nothing. Let's get you back to bed before the nurses yell at me.
They won't yell at you. Everyone's scared of you.
Not everyone. Lorenzo glanced at Sophia, who was wiping her eyes. Some people are too stubborn to know better. Sophia smiled despite herself. They were halfway back to Luna's room when Lorenzo's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Luna felt him tense. You have to go, she said quietly. Not a question.
No.
I'm staying right here.
The phone rang.
Lorenzo pulled it out, ready to turn it off, but the name on the screen made him stop. Dante Urgent. Dante was his consigliere. 20 years of loyalty. The man who handled problems Lorenzo couldn't afford to ignore. He never called unless it was life or death. Lorenzo looked at Luna, then at Sophia. I need to take this. I'll be right back. He set Luna gently on her bed and stepped into the hallway, pressing the phone to his ear. This better be important. Boss, we have a problem. Dante's voice was tight. The Barbieri family knows about Luna. Every muscle in Lorenzo's body went rigid.
How?
Someone talked. Maybe a nurse. Maybe someone saw the convoy. Doesn't matter. Marcus Barbieri is making moves. My sources say he's planning something. What kind of something? The kind where he uses your daughter to settle old scores. Dante paused. He knows she's sick, Lorenzo. He knows she's vulnerable. And he knows you'll do anything to protect her. Lorenzo's free hand clenched into a fist. Marcus Barbieri had been a thorn in his side for 3 years, a rival family trying to muscle into Lorenzo's territory. They'd had an uneasy truce, but truces were fragile things in their world. What are you suggesting? Lorenzo asked, though he already knew. Send her away. Tonight. I have a place in Italy, a villa, secure, off the books. We can have her on a plane in 2 hours with a medical team. She'll be safe there until we handle Barbieri. For how long? However long it takes.
Weeks.
Maybe months. Lorenzo looked through the window into Luna's room. She was showing Sophia another drawing, actually smiling. Actually talking. After months of silence, his daughter was finally coming back to him. No, Lorenzo said. Boss. I said no. I'm not sending her away. Then you're putting her life at risk. Dante's voice hardened. You know how Barbieri operates. He won't come at you directly. He'll go after what you love. And right now, that girl is the biggest target in Chicago. So, we eliminate the threat. It's not that simple. Barbieri has connections. The commission won't approve a hit without cause. If you move against him now, you start a war. Then we start a war. Lorenzo, Dante rarely used his first name.
Think about this.
A war means chaos. Means attention from the feds. Means Luna becomes collateral damage.
Send her to Italy.
Keep her safe. Then we can deal with Barbieri properly. Lorenzo closed his eyes. Everything Dante was saying made tactical sense. Sending Luna away was the smart move, the logical move. It's what any good strategist would do. But he'd just held his daughter for the first time in months. He'd just heard her laugh. How could he send her away now? He ended the call and walked back into the room. Sophia looked up from Luna's drawing, and something in his expression made her stand. What's wrong? Nothing. Lorenzo forced his features into neutrality. Just business. But Luna was watching him with those two perceptive eyes. You're lying. You have your lying face. Sweetheart. Are you sending me away? The question hit like a bullet. Lorenzo hesitated too long. Luna's face crumpled.
No.
No, I don't want to go. Papa, please. It's just for a little while. Just until.
No.
Luna grabbed Sophia's hand, tears streaming down her face. I won't go without Sophia. She's my safe place. She's the only one who. She dissolved into sobs, clutching Sophia like a lifeline. Sophia wrapped her arms around the little girl, shooting Lorenzo a look that could have melted steel. What did you do? There are people who want to hurt her. Lorenzo's voice was strained. People who will use her to get to me. The only way to keep her safe is to rip her away from the one person she's finally opened up to. Sophia's voice shook with fury. She just started talking again, Lorenzo. She just started trusting you. And your solution is to send her to another country? You don't understand the world I live in. I understand that you're about to make the same mistake again. Sophia's eyes blazed. Choosing your empire over your daughter. Putting business before family. And this time, she's awake to see you do it. The words landed like physical blows. Lorenzo looked at his daughter, sobbing, terrified, begging not to be sent away, and saw his wife's face the night she died. Saw himself arriving at the hospital too late, too consumed with protecting his interests to notice she'd been dying for months. History repeating itself. Marco appeared in the doorway. Boss, Dante says we need to move now. The plane is ready. Luna's sobs intensified. Papa, please. Please don't make me go. Lorenzo stood frozen, torn between every instinct he had. Protect his daughter by sending her away. Or keep her close and risk losing her forever. For the first time in his life, Lorenzo Vitali had no idea what to do. And the clock was ticking. Lorenzo made his decision. Call off the plane, he said to Marco, not taking his eyes off Luna. We're staying. Boss, Dante said. I don't care what Dante said. Tell him to double security here. Triple it. I want men on every floor, every entrance, every window. Nobody gets near this room without my approval. Marco hesitated, then nodded and stepped into the hallway, already on his phone. Lorenzo knelt beside Luna's bed. I'm not sending you away. I promise. Luna threw her arms around his neck again, her small body shaking with relief.
Thank you, Papa.
Thank you. Sophia watched the reunion, her expression unreadable. She should have felt relief. Luna was staying, that was good. But something cold settled in her stomach as she watched Lorenzo's guards multiply outside the room. This wasn't over. Whatever threat he'd mentioned, it was real. And she'd just become part of it. Sophia went home that night for the first time in a week. Her apartment felt foreign, too quiet after the constant beeping of hospital monitors. She took a shower, changed into clean clothes, and was making coffee when someone pounded on her door. Miss Carter, I know you're in there. Sophia recognized the voice, Mr. Kowalski, her landlord. She opened the door to find him standing in the hallway, arms crossed, his weathered face set in angry lines. Mr. Kowalski, it's 11 at night. You got 30 days to get out. Sophia's stomach dropped. What? Don't play dumb. I know who you've been spending time with. Lorenzo Vitali. He practically spat the name. His guys came through my building last week, asking questions about you. You think I don't know what that means? A child was sick. I was helping. I don't care if you were saving the Pope himself. I got a wife, Miss Carter. I got grandkids who visit. I can't have Mafia business in my building. He pulled out a folded paper from his jacket. 30 days. It's all legal. Already talked to my lawyer. He dropped the eviction notice in her hand and walked away. Sophia stood in her doorway, staring at the paper, feeling her carefully constructed life crumbling around her. She'd lived in this apartment for 8 years. It was where she'd brought Emma home from the hospital for the last time, where she'd packed away her daughter's clothes after the funeral, where she'd learned to live with the grief. And now it was gone, because she'd saved a little girl's life. Lorenzo found out the next morning. Sophia didn't tell him. She wouldn't have, but apparently his men had been watching her building. They reported everything. I can fix this, Lorenzo said as soon as she walked into Luna's hospital room. I'll talk to your landlord. Or I'll buy the building. Or I'll set you up in a better place. Somewhere safe, secure. No, Sophia's voice was flat. Sophia, be reasonable. I said no. She set her bag down with more force than necessary. I'm not your charity case, Mr. Vitali. I'm not another problem for you to throw money at. This isn't about money. You're in danger because of me. I'm homeless because of you. The words came out sharper than she intended. I'm losing my home because I got tangled up in your world. So forgive me if I don't want to be even more dependent on you. Luna looked between them, her eyes wide. Sophia's leaving? No. Sweetheart, Sophia's voice softened immediately. I'm not leaving you. I just need to find a new place to live. You can live with us. Luna said brightly. Right, Papa? Our house is really big. The suggestion hung in the air like a grenade. That's not appropriate, Sophia said firmly. Your Papa and I barely know each other. I have guest houses, Lorenzo said. Separate from the main residence. Fully furnished, secure. You wouldn't be living with me, just on the property. So, I'd be your employee? You'd be under my protection. I don't want your protection. Sophia's voice rose. Don't you get it? This is exactly what I'm trying to avoid. Being another person who lives off Lorenzo Vitali's generosity, who owes him, who belongs to him. I don't own people, Lorenzo said coldly. Don't you? Sophia rounded on him. Your men jump when you speak. Nurses trip over themselves to accommodate you. My landlord is terrified of you. Everyone in your orbit belongs to you in one way or another. That's not fair. Isn't it? Sophia stepped closer, her hands trembling. My daughter died because I couldn't afford treatment. Do you know what that's like? Watching your child slip away because you're poor? Because you don't matter to anyone with power? Lorenzo's jaw tightened. Sophia. I worked 3 jobs. I begged hospitals for help. I applied for every program, every grant, every charity, her voice cracked. And you know what I learned? People like you don't help people like me unless there's something in it for you. Rich men don't use their power to save dying children. They use it to build empires and protect their interests. That's not what I'm doing here, isn't it? Sophia's eyes blazed. You're not keeping Luna at the hospital because it's best for her. You're keeping her here because sending her away makes you look weak. This whole situation, the guards, the guns, the threats, it's all because of choices you made. And now Luna and I are both paying the price. The room went silent. Luna had tears streaming down her face. Don't fight, she whispered. Please don't fight. Sophia's anger deflated immediately. She moved to Luna's side, taking her hand.
I'm sorry, sweetie.
I didn't mean to upset you. Lorenzo stood rigid by the window, his back to them both. You're wrong about one thing, he said quietly. I'm not keeping Luna here for my reputation. I'm keeping her here because sending her away would break what's left of her heart. He turned, and Sophia saw something raw in his expression. You think I don't know what I am? What I represent? I've built everything I have on fear and violence. I know that. But Luna is the one good thing I've ever created, and I'm trying, his voice broke slightly. I'm trying not to destroy her too. Sophia looked at him, really looked, and saw the truth.
He wasn't a monster.
He was just a man who'd made terrible choices and was drowning in the consequences.
Just like she was.
I don't want to live in your house, she said finally. But I need time to find somewhere else.
Can your men?
I don't know. Make sure my landlord doesn't throw my stuff on the street before I figure it out. Lorenzo nodded. Already done. And I'm paying my own rent, wherever I end up.
Fine.
And I'm not your employee. I'm Luna's friend. There's a difference. I understand. Sophia took a shaky breath. Good. Luna squeezed both their hands. Are you done being mad? Sophia managed a weak smile. Yes, sweetie. We're done. But as Lorenzo's phone buzzed again, Dante calling for the 3rd time that hour, Sophia knew the truth. They weren't done. This was only the beginning. It happened on Luna's 10th night in the hospital. The doctors had said she could be discharged in 2 days. Her medication was working, her heart rhythm had stabilized, and she'd gained back 3 pounds. Sophia had spent the afternoon helping her pack her drawings and books, talking about what color curtains she wanted for her purple bedroom. Everything felt almost normal. Sophia should have known better. It was just past midnight when Lorenzo's phone rang. He'd been dozing in the chair by the window, something Sophia had never seen him do before. He'd been sleeping at the hospital every night, refusing to leave Luna's side despite Dante's increasingly urgent calls to handle business. Lorenzo answered quietly, listened for 30 seconds, then his entire body went rigid. When?
His voice was deadly calm.
How many? Sophia looked up from her book. Luna was asleep, her small chest rising and falling steadily. Lorenzo stood, moving toward the door. He spoke in rapid Italian to Marco, who'd been standing guard outside. More men appeared, 6 of them, all armed. What's going on? Sophia asked, keeping her voice low. We're moving Luna. Lorenzo was already disconnecting her monitors, careful not to wake her.
Now. What?
The doctors said. The Barbieri family knows she's being discharged in 2 days. They're planning to hit us during transport. Lorenzo's hands moved with practiced efficiency, gathering Luna's things. We're moving her tonight instead. They won't be ready. Sophia's heart hammered. You're using your daughter as bait? I'm getting her out before they can hurt her. By doing exactly what they'd expect? Lorenzo, this is... Glass exploded inward. The window shattered in a shower of crystalline fragments as bullets tore through the room. Sophia's instincts took over. She threw herself across Luna's bed, covering the little girl's body with her own.
Luna woke screaming.
More gunfire. The machines beside the bed sparked and died as bullets ripped through them. Sophia felt something hot graze her shoulder, but didn't dare move. She pressed Luna's face against her chest, shielding her from the chaos. Stay down, Lorenzo roared. He'd pulled a gun from somewhere, when had he armed himself, and was returning fire through the shattered window. Outside in the hallway, more gunfire erupted. Shouts in Italian. Someone screaming. Luna was sobbing against Sophia's chest, her small body shaking uncontrollably. Sophia, Sophia, Sophia. I've got you, baby. I've got you. Sophia's voice somehow stayed steady even as terror flooded her veins. Close your eyes. Don't look. The door burst open. 3 men in black masks stormed in, guns raised. Marco and 2 other guards met them head-on. The firefight was brutal, deafening in the small hospital room. Sophia couldn't see what was happening, didn't want to see, just held Luna tighter and prayed. One of the masked men went down, then another. Then something changed in the air, a shift from defensive to predatory. Lorenzo moved like death itself. Sophia caught glimpses between her closed eyes, Lorenzo disarming a gunman with brutal efficiency, breaking the man's arm with a sickening crack, putting a bullet in another man's knee, then his chest. Moving with a precision that came from years of violence, each motion economical and lethal. This wasn't self-defense. This was execution. The 3rd masked man tried to run. Lorenzo shot him in the back. Then silence. Ringing, awful silence broken only by Luna's muffled sobs and someone's labored breathing. Sophia finally dared to look up. The room was destroyed. Bullet holes peppered the walls. Medical equipment sparked and smoked. 3 bodies lay on the floor in spreading pools of blood. And Lorenzo stood in the center of it all, guns still raised, his expensive suit splattered with crimson. His hands were shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline, from rage barely contained. Boss, we need to move. Marco was bleeding from his arm, but standing. More could be coming. Lorenzo lowered his gun. His eyes found Luna, still pressed against Sophia's chest. Luna, it's over, he said, his voice rough. You're safe now. Sophia slowly released her grip, letting Luna sit up. The little girl's eyes were wide, unfocused with shock. They swept the room, the broken glass, the bodies, the blood, and landed on her father.
On his hands.
Still gripping the gun. Covered in red. Papa. Her voice was tiny, broken. Lorenzo took a step toward her, holstering his weapon. It's okay, Bambina.
They can't hurt you now.
I took care of.
Luna screamed.
Not a scream of fear from the attack. A scream of pure terror directed at Lorenzo himself. She scrambled backward on the bed, pressing herself against Sophia, her eyes locked on Lorenzo's blood-stained hands like they were vipers. Get away! Luna shrieked. Get away from me! Lorenzo froze. Luna, I was protecting you. You killed them. You killed them. She was hyperventilating, her face turning pale. The heart monitor, the one machine still working, began beeping frantically. Sweetheart, they were trying to hurt you. I saw you. I saw what you did. Tears streamed down Luna's face. You're a monster. Mama said you were a monster, and she was right. The words hit Lorenzo like bullets. He staggered back a step, his face draining of color. Sophia wrapped her arms around Luna, feeling the little girl's racing heartbeat against her own chest. Luna, you need to calm down. Your heart. But Luna was inconsolable, sobbing and shaking, her eyes still fixed on her father with absolute horror. Sophia looked at Lorenzo, saw the devastation in his face, the way his hands hung uselessly at his sides, still stained with blood, and something inside her snapped. Get out, she said. Lorenzo blinked. What? Get out of this room. Now, Sophia's voice shook with fury. You just traumatized your daughter to save her life. Congratulations, Lorenzo. You saved her body and lost her heart. Sophia, I had to. I said get out. Marco moved to intervene, but Lorenzo held up a hand. His face was a mask of stone, but his eyes were broken. He looked at Luna one more time. His daughter pressed against Sophia, still sobbing, still terrified of him. Then he turned and walked out of the room without a word. The door closed behind him with a soft click. And Sophia was left holding a shattered little girl in a room that smelled of gunpowder and blood, wondering if some things, some people, were too broken to ever be fixed. Outside in the hallway, she could hear Lorenzo's voice, cold and empty. Clean this up. And find every member of the Barbieri family. I want them to know what happens when they touch what's mine. Sophia closed her eyes and held Luna tighter. The war had just begun. Luna was moved to a different hospital across the city within an hour of the attack. This one had no windows in the patient rooms. Armed guards on every floor. Metal detectors at every entrance. It looked less like a hospital and more like a fortress. Luna didn't speak for 3 days. Not to the nurses. Not to the doctors. Not even to Sophia. She just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her small hands clutching the blanket. When Sophia tried to hold her hand, Luna would pull away, not roughly, but with a kind of defeated exhaustion that was somehow worse. On the 4th day, Dr. Richardson came in with test results and a grim expression. Her heart rate is elevated again, he said quietly to Sophia while Luna pretended to sleep. The stress from the attack triggered a relapse. We're adjusting her medication, but he hesitated. Where's her father? I don't know. Sophia hadn't seen Lorenzo since that night. His men were everywhere, but Lorenzo himself had vanished. She needs stability.
Calm.
Her heart can't handle this level of trauma. Dr. Richardson looked at the little girl in the bed. Physically, she's recovering. Emotionally, I'm worried we're losing her. Sophia was worried about the same thing. Lorenzo sat alone in the hospital chapel. He'd been there for 2 hours, staring at the simple wooden cross on the wall. He wasn't a religious man, hadn't stepped foot in a church since his wife's funeral, but he had nowhere else to go. His phone buzzed constantly. Dante calling. Marco calling. His lawyers, his accountants, his contacts in City Hall. Everyone wanting to know what the next move was. Lorenzo had declared war on the Barbieri family the night of the attack. He'd mobilized every resource, called in every favor, prepared to burn their organization to the ground. But then he'd heard Luna screaming in his nightmares. You're a monster. Mama said you were a monster, and she was right.
His wife had said that.
The night before she died, during one of their final arguments, she'd begged him to leave the life, to take Luna and disappear somewhere safe. He'd refused. Said he had responsibilities, obligations, a kingdom to protect. She'd looked at him with such disappointment. You're not building a kingdom, Lorenzo. You're building a prison. And one day, Luna will see you for what you really are. She'd been right. If I can't be the father she needs, Lorenzo whispered to the empty chapel, Then I don't deserve her. His phone buzzed again. This time he answered. Boss, we have a problem. Dante's voice was tight with urgency. The Barbieri family is mobilizing. They're calling in allies from New York, from Miami. If we don't strike first. Call them, Lorenzo said. What? Call Marcus Barbieri. Tell him I want a meeting. Silence. Then, boss, if this is about negotiating terms of surrender, you know they'll. I'm not surrendering. I'm declaring a truce. A truce? Dante's voice rose in disbelief. They just tried to kill your daughter. They attacked a hospital. And you want to? Yes. Lorenzo, that's suicide. The other families will see it as weakness. Every crew that's been waiting for you to show vulnerability will move against us. We'll lose everything. I know. Another long silence. You're serious? Completely. Why? Lorenzo closed his eyes. Because I've built a kingdom out of fear, Dante. And it's time it fell. 30 minutes later, Lorenzo's inner circle gathered in a private conference room at the hospital. 6 men who'd been with him for years, who'd helped him build his empire from nothing. Dante stood at the head of the table, arms crossed. Marco leaned against the wall, his injured arm in a sling. The others sat in various states of confusion and concern. Explain to me, Dante said carefully, why we're calling off a war we're positioned to win. Lorenzo stood by the window, this one reinforced with bulletproof glass. Because Luna saw me kill 3 men. Because she called me a monster. Because the doctors say the stress is destroying her heart. He turned to face them. Because I'm choosing my daughter over everything else. Boss, we can protect her, Marco said. We can move her somewhere safe, somewhere the Barbieri family can't touch her, and then we finish this fight. And what happens when I finish it? Lorenzo's voice was quiet but firm. I kill Marcus Barbieri and his brothers. Maybe his cousins too. Maybe anyone who ever worked for him. And then what? Luna grows up knowing her father is a mass murderer. She grows up in hiding, surrounded by guards, never able to live a normal life. She becomes exactly what I've been trying to prevent. She's already in that life, Dante argued. The moment she was born into this family, that was her fate. Then I'm changing her fate. By destroying everything we've built. Yes, Lorenzo met each man's eyes in turn. I'm calling off all operations. Declaring a truce with every family, including the Barbieris. I'm stepping down. The room erupted. You can't just step down. The commission will never accept. You'll be killed within a month. Enough. Lorenzo's voice cut through the chaos. I've made my decision. Anyone who doesn't like it can walk away right now. No hard feelings. I'll make sure you're set up with someone who still has ambitions in this world. No one moved. I'm not asking you to follow me into retirement, Lorenzo continued. I'm releasing you from your obligations. All of you. Your loyalty has been appreciated, but it's no longer required. Dante stared at him like he'd never seen him before. You're really doing this? For an 8-year-old who won't even look at you? Yes. She might never forgive you for what she saw. I know. So you're giving up your power, your protection, your life's work. For nothing. Lorenzo thought about Luna's drawing, the one with all 3 of them holding hands, smiling. The one she'd hidden under her pillow and never showed him. Not for nothing, he said quietly. For the chance that maybe, someday, she won't be afraid of me anymore. Dante shook his head slowly. You're either the bravest man I've ever met, or the biggest fool. Probably both. Lorenzo picked up his phone. Set up the meeting with Barbieri. And get our lawyers started on the paperwork. I want everything legitimate, everything clean. No loose ends. One by one, his men filed out of the room, some shaking their heads, others looking like they'd just witnessed something they didn't quite understand. Marco was the last to leave. He paused at the door. Boss, what are you going to do after this? Lorenzo looked toward the floor where Luna's room was, where she lay refusing to see him. I'm going to figure out how to be the father she deserves, he said. Even if it kills me. Marco nodded slowly and left. Alone again, Lorenzo pulled off his signet ring, the heavy gold band with the Vitali family crest, the symbol of his authority that he'd worn for 15 years. He set it on the table and walked away without looking back. 3 weeks later, Luna was discharged. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. Her heart was responding well to medication. Her rhythm was stable. Physically, she was healthier than she'd been in months. Emotionally was a different story. She'd started talking again to Sophia, to the nurses, even to Dr. Richardson. But whenever Lorenzo entered the room, she went silent. She didn't scream anymore, didn't cry, just retreated into a polite, distant quiet that was somehow worse than the terror had been. Lorenzo took it without complaint. He'd sit in the corner of her room, never too close, and tell her about the house, about the purple bedroom that was ready for her, about the garden where she could plant flowers if she wanted, about the library he'd had installed with every book he could think of. Luna would nod politely and say, "That's nice, Papa," in a voice that held no warmth. Then she'd turn back to Sophia and ask what story they were reading next. On discharge day, Lorenzo's fleet of SUVs was gone. Instead, a single black sedan waited at the hospital entrance. No armed guards, no entourage. Just a driver Sophia didn't recognize. "Where are your men?" Sophia asked as they loaded Luna's belongings. "Gone." Lorenzo's voice was flat. "I released them from service 2 weeks ago. Most have moved on to other families. All of them. Marco's still around.
Dante too.
But they're not working for me anymore.
Just
Keeping an eye out until I'm clear of this life completely." Sophia looked at him, really looked. He'd lost weight. His suits, always immaculate, now hung slightly loose on his frame. The shadows under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept properly in weeks. "You actually did it," she said quietly. "You walked away. I'm in the process.
these things take time.
Lawyers, paperwork, making sure I don't leave any threads that could pull me back in." He watched Luna climb into the car, avoiding his eyes. Or put her in danger again. The drive to Lorenzo's estate was silent. Luna sat between Sophia and Lorenzo in the back seat, holding Sophia's hand, staring out the window. When they arrived, the house was enormous, a sprawling property with manicured lawns and a fountain in the circular driveway. But it felt empty, quiet. A housekeeper named Mrs. Chen greeted them, warm and grandmotherly. She showed Luna to her room. Purple walls, just as promised, with a canopy bed and shelves already filled with books and art supplies. Luna managed a small smile. "It's pretty. Your papa picked everything himself," Mrs. Chen said gently. The smile faded. "Oh." Sophia stayed for dinner, a meal that Mrs. Chen had prepared with obvious love. Luna ate a little, talked a little, but kept glancing at the door like she wanted to escape. After dinner, after Luna had gone to bed, Sophia found Lorenzo in his study. He was staring at paperwork spread across his desk, but she could tell he wasn't really seeing it. "I should go," Sophia said from the doorway. Lorenzo looked up. "Thank you. For everything. She's going to need time." "I know," he stood, running a hand through his hair. "I hired a child therapist. She starts next week. And there's a tutor. Luna's missed too much school. And Mrs. Chen will be here whenever Luna needs anything. What about you? What about me? Where will you be?" Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled an envelope from his desk drawer and handed it to her. "What's this?" Sophia asked. 3 months' rent for an apartment. Not in my name, nothing that ties back to me.
Just
So you have somewhere safe while you figure things out." He held up a hand before she could protest. "It's not charity. Consider it payment for the time you spent caring for Luna. You lost your home because of me. This is me fixing my mistake." Sophia wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she didn't need his help. But she did need it. And pride wouldn't keep a roof over her head. "Thank you," she said quietly, taking the envelope. "There's something else." Lorenzo hesitated. "I'm leaving Chicago. Once everything is settled, probably another month or 2, I'm taking Luna and disappearing. New city, new name, clean start. Sophia's chest tightened. Does she know? Not yet. I'll tell her when it's time. He met Sophia's eyes. I wanted you to know first. In case. In case she asks for you. Where will you go? I don't know yet. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere she can be normal. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Somewhere I can learn to be normal too. Lorenzo. I know what you're going to say. That running won't fix what's broken between us. But staying here definitely won't. She'll always see this house, this city, and remember what I am. What I did. Sophia stepped closer. Then don't vanish. Don't become another ghost she has to grieve. What else can I do? Become someone she can find again. Sophia's voice was firm. Not the man you were. Not the Don or the monster or whatever you think you are.
Just.
A father. A real one. Someone who shows up, even when it's hard. Someone who doesn't run when things get difficult. Lorenzo looked at her with something like wonder. You still have hope for me. After everything you've seen, I have hope for Luna. And she needs you. Not your money or your protection or your guilt. She needs her father to be brave enough to stay in her life, even if she pushes you away. And if she never forgives me, then at least you'll be there when she's ready to try. Lorenzo pulled something from his pocket, his signet ring, the gold band with the Vitali crest. He'd been carrying it since the day he took it off. He placed it in Sophia's hand. What am I supposed to do with this? She asked. Keep it. Sell it. Throw it in the river. He closed her fingers around it. I don't need it anymore. That man, the one who wore that ring, he's dead. I'm trying to become someone else now. Sophia looked down at the heavy gold in her palm, then back at Lorenzo's face. He looked lighter somehow, still exhausted, still haunted, but no longer carrying the weight of an empire. Be someone worth finding, Sophia said softly. Lorenzo smiled, really smiled, for the first time since she'd met him. I'll try. Sophia left the estate that night and never went back. But she kept the ring. And sometimes late at night, she'd wonder if Lorenzo Vitali had really managed to disappear into a new life. Or if some ghosts were too substantial to ever truly fade away. 6 months later, Sophia stood outside Mel's diner at dawn, coffee in hand, watching the construction crew finish their work. The old building looked transformed, new windows, fresh paint, a modern awning. But the bones were the same. The booth where Luna had collapsed. The counter where Sophia had worked for 6 years. The place where everything had changed. Mel had sold it to her for a fraction of what it was worth. You saved a kid's life in my place, he'd said gruffly, signing over the deed. Seems right that you get to keep the magic going. Sophia had used every penny she'd saved, plus a small business loan, to buy it. She'd spent 3 months renovating, painting, choosing new equipment. And now, finally, it was ready. The sign installer climbed down from his ladder. All set, Miss Carter. Want to see? Sophia nodded, her heart in her throat. He flipped a switch, and the new sign illuminated against the purple-pink dawn sky. Luna's Light Cafe. The letters glowed warm and golden, chasing away the shadows. Sophia's eyes burned with tears. She'd named it after a little girl she hadn't seen in half a year. A little girl who'd vanished with her father into whatever new life they'd built together. She wondered if they were safe. If Luna was happy. If Lorenzo had managed to become the father he'd promised to be. She wondered if they ever thought about her. Opening day was chaos in the best way. Regular customers from the old diner came back, curious about the changes. New faces appeared, drawn by the fresh paint and the intriguing name. Sophia hired 2 servers, young women from the neighborhood who reminded her of herself at that age, and spent the morning training them on the ancient coffee machine that she'd refused to replace. By noon, every booth was full. By 2 o'clock, Sophia was exhausted and exhilarated and more alive than she'd felt in years. She was restocking napkins when she noticed the envelope taped to the register. Her hands stilled. It was thick, cream-colored paper. Expensive. Her name was written across the front in elegant handwriting she didn't recognize. Sophia's heart began to race. She waited until the afternoon rush died down, until the diner was quiet again, before opening it. Inside was a photograph. A little girl on a beach. Older now, taller, her dark hair longer and sun-streaked. She was laughing, arms stretched wide, waves crashing behind her. The joy on her face was so pure, so unguarded, that Sophia's breath caught.
Luna.
Behind her in the photo, just at the edge of the frame, was a man building a sandcastle. His face was turned away from the camera, but Sophia knew the line of his shoulders, the way he moved. Lorenzo. Her hands shook as she unfolded the note that had been tucked behind the photo. Dear Sophia, Luna wanted to send you a drawing, but I convinced her a photograph might be more meaningful. This was taken 3 weeks ago in a small town on the Oregon coast. We've been here for 4 months. It's quiet, peaceful, the kind of place where nobody asks questions and everybody knows your name anyway.
Luna goes to school now.
Public school. She has friends. She talks about them constantly, about Emma, yes, she named her best friend Emma and cried when she told me why, and about her art teacher, and about the boy who sits behind her in math class and pulls her hair. She still takes her medication, every day. Still sees her cardiologist monthly. But she runs now. She laughs. She's not afraid anymore. And she talks to me, not just polite words, but real conversations. Yesterday, she told me about a fight she had with Emma and asked my advice and actually listened to what I said. It was the best conversation of my life. She asks about you sometimes. Wonders if you're okay. If you found a new apartment. If you're still working at the diner. I found out about Luna's Light Cafe from an old friend who still has connections in Chicago. I won't say I'm not still watching from a distance. Old habits. But I want you to know, you were right. About everything. I didn't need to vanish. I needed to become someone worth finding. Someone who shows up. Someone who stays, even when it's hard. I'm not that man yet, but I'm trying. Every day I'm trying. Luna drew something for you after all. It's in the envelope. For the woman who taught me how to live, not rule. Thank you for saving my daughter. Thank you for saving me. Sophia pulled out the second item in the envelope with shaking hands. It was a drawing, unmistakably Luna's style. 3 figures holding hands on a beach. A woman with dark hair, a little girl in the middle, and a man on the other side. But this time, there were no walls between them. No distance. And everyone was smiling. At the bottom, in careful child's handwriting, my family. Love, Luna. Sophia pressed the drawing to her chest and let herself cry. Big, gasping sobs of relief and joy and bittersweet loss all tangled together. They were okay. Luna was happy. Lorenzo was trying. That was enough. That had to be enough. The sun was setting when Sophia finally walked to the front door of the cafe. The street was quiet now, the dinner rush still an hour away. She looked at the drawing in her hand one more time, then carefully pinned it to the bulletin board behind the counter, right next to the old photograph of Emma. 2 little girls. 2 chances to save someone. 2 pieces of her heart given away and somehow, impossibly, making her more whole. Sophia flipped the sign in the window from closed to open. Outside, the cafe's golden lights reflected on the wet pavement from an earlier rain. The sign above glowed against the darkening sky, Luna's Light Cafe. And Sophia understood, finally, what Lorenzo had been searching for all along. Not power, not control, not kingdoms built on fear. Just this, a small light in the darkness. A place where broken people could find their way home. A second chance to get it right. Lorenzo had found his light in a quiet beach town, learning to be a father. Luna had found hers in laughter and friendship, and a life no longer shadowed by fear. And Sophia had found hers here, in this diner, serving coffee and hope to anyone who walked through her doors. 3 lives, changed by one terrible night and one impossible choice. 3 lights, burning in different places, but somehow still connected. Sophia smiled as the first evening customers began to arrive, the bell above the door chiming its welcome. The light Lorenzo could never find was shining now in all their worlds. And it would keep shining, as long as there were people brave enough to choose love over fear, connection over control, and second chances over giving up. Luna's light, Emma's memory, Sophia's hope. All of it glowing golden in the gathering dusk, chasing the shadows away.